Eduardo. With me, as always, is former quarterback Kurt Hess, former defensive lineman Kyle Stroh, and former football director of operations Dan Kopp. And guys, 2025 is upon us. Uh, we're going to camp in just short, I want to say 30 days, July 28th. We're reporting to camp. So camp's starting pretty soon here. We're getting into it. We're going to break down the 2025 football schedule, tell you what we think our biggest games are, and dive into the month by month on our game predictions. And if the Penguins are going to the playoffs or not, we'll each give you our thoughts. But first, as always, follow us on Instagram, Watertown Penguin Podcast. We are on YouTube Live. Follow us and give us a comment, give us a question, and we will answer it here on the show. And if you are in that YouTube Live, give us your predictions and your thoughts on the biggest game of the year. Few notes before we dive in. Missouri Valley Football Media Days is happening this week. Coach Phillips already spoke on Monday, had some good things to say. We'll recap that on a different episode. One thing to note on the Missouri Valley Football Conference Media Days, Penguins are picked to finish fifth. That is the best pick since 2018, or the highest finish prediction since 2018, and the best under Coach Phillips, who started with us in 2020. And just one more thing, as Strollo mentioned on the previous episode, we did finish with the number 4 recruiting class overall in FCS, and actually number 3 if you include the transfer portals. Coach Phillips going to his 6th season. He definitely has a tough schedule ahead of him. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Starting on a Thursday night, we have Mercyhurst, and then the rest of the home schedule includes Robert Morris, South Dakota State, Murray State, Southern Illinois, Indiana State. We are going to be on the road at Michigan State, Towson, North Dakota, Illinois State, North Dakota State, and on the road at our favorite UNI. Now, we're going to break down this month by month, but before we do, turn it over to my co-host. Guys, what sticks out in general on this schedule for you, and what's the biggest game for you overall in this season? Curdy.
Yeah, I think what sticks out to me is we have avoided a playoff team in South Dakota. So we don't have South Dakota, which always kind of bodes well for us, even playing when we were there. If we could avoid maybe one of those teams, it's kind of a perennial playoff team. They have been the last couple of years. That kind of favors us well. Talking about the biggest game, I think it's pretty clear and obvious. Got to give a shout out to Ricky Davis, who called this one, Penguin alumni, and a couple other people on social media. The Towson game is the one that sticks out to me the most. You go through the schedule and you look at those first two. Robert Morris, we'll talk about Robert Morris week. There's a lot of family ties to that one. Duquesne kind of comes to mind with that one. But Towson's the big one. Towson was 7-5 last year. They're returning what looks to be like a 5th or 6th year starter at quarterback, a graduate transfer, who's now a graduate student. So you've got a very experienced quarterback coming. We're on the road. They're 7-5. They played Cincinnati, North Dakota State, and Villanova, two very, very close games on the road last year. Cincinnati was like a 2 or 3 score game. North Dakota State was close, and it was a 1-point loss to Villanova at Villanova. 7 wins, bringing a lot back. Their tight end, they lost. I think his last name was Carter Runyon. Carter Runyon's his name. He signed with the Raiders, so they lost some production, but they have a lot coming back. What's most concerning to me about this Towson game is if you look at the Doug Phillips era, throw out 2020, any of the early season games that we play on the road, so that is August, September, or the first 4 games of the year, Doug Phillips coached teams at YSU are 0-9. That is not good for us. That's concerning. And as a Cincinnati Bengals fan who's constantly playing from behind for 1-4, 1-3 teams, it's hard to dig yourself out of that hole. So if we can get those first 2, chalk Michigan State up as a loss, and if we lose another road game early in the season, I think we're climbing ourselves out of a hole again. Now, I know what you're going to say. We play our big money games early in the season. Throw away the big money games. We're 0-5 in early season road games.
Are
That's what
you
I think is most
saying,
concerning. So
Coach
do we
Phillips?
break the curse? Do we flip the script this year and we get that early season road win? Or do we go to 0-10 and we're climbing ourselves out of a hole again? Towson is the biggest game for us early in the season.
Are you saying Coach Phillips has never won a game on the road at a conference?
This included in conference and out of conference early in the season. So I was going to count August and September games only, but 2 of the losses that we had were in conference and they were like October 1st or October 2nd. So if you count it as just the first 4 games of our schedule, because we play 12 games, chunk it 4, 4, and 4, right?
Right.
If we play on the road, a Division I opponent is all that we ever play on the road. We have not won an early season road game under Coach Phillips.
Oh boy.
Now,
what do you think, Dan?
take what it is, right? Big Ten, right? I mean, Michigan State, you got Pitt, like take those away, 0-5. So, all right, go ahead, Coach.
Scary.
Yeah, that's some interesting stat facts there. That I can't disagree with you. Obviously, we kind of talked maybe briefly about this Towson game last year a little. The thing that jumped out to me, unless I ain't got my cheaters on, you young men out there, but we don't have a bye week again? Are we straight through?
After Townsend. After Townsend.
Okay, so before South Dakota State, as you got, I didn't see right, but that probably, I mean, it's probably cliche that South Dakota State jumps out to me, but it does, especially with Kurt's, stat there that, so we're going to have South Dakota State coming here, a new coach. Even though I wasn't on the show, I reached out to Ron Stroller. We chatted a little bit last week. And I was wondering, are the Dakota schools starting to get beat up a little bit with this transfer portal, NIL? I felt like for a 10-year, well, more than 10 years, whatever it be, 15 years, they were kind of isolated. Nobody really, other than us, people who appreciated the Missouri Valley Conference, heard about the Dakotas. But there's got to be, I would think, a couple of schools out there, Big 12, Big 10, taking some of these Dakota guys. I don't know. I haven't researched that yet. So I'm wondering, with new coach, maybe those guys are finally exposed to, I mean, how many NFL guys does South Dakota State, North Dakota State put out there that finally these guys are like, why are we letting this guy get drafted in the first round, a left tackle? He should be playing with us at Oklahoma or something. I don't know. But that game kind of just jumped out to me because obviously it's South Dakota State. It's a Dakota school. But, new coach, maybe they've lost some guys. I don't know. And then that game after Towson, I mean, Kurt's point, I mean, the Dakota schools are always big games, but now we got South Dakota State coming in. If we get a great road win at Towson and get that week off, and now we got South Dakota State, that one jumped out to me early just looking at the schedule. So that's my game. Go ahead, Kyle.
So the biggest thing that stuck out to me is this road trip, the road schedule on this. Again, we got a lot of back-to-back road trips. We've talked about how we just typically struggle on the road. We just don't seem to play the same way we do at home. And welcome back to the schedule, North Dakota State, someone that we haven't seen for a couple seasons. And we have to go out to the Fargo Dome and start that. The one team that's the key game here that sticks out to me is Illinois State. We have 3 of the 4 teams that were picked in front of us on the schedule this year. Illinois State is a team that we played tough last year, and I think that we can be a top 4 or 3 team in this conference. And Illinois State is going to be like that game that dictates whether we're in the top of the conference or we're bottom middle of the conference. So that right there, I mean, and then we can talk about the bye week being maybe too early, but I would take a bye week being early, getting ready for conference versus not having one at all like we did last year. So those are the 3 things that stuck out to me on the schedule, and Illinois State is the game for me to have an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit it. Kurt said Townsend, Dan with the Jackrabbits, and Kyle with Illinois State. I don't want to give away my previews to come, but I kind of with you, Dan, that I think the Jackrabbit game is more gettable than we think it is. But assuming we do not win that game, I think the Northern Iowa game is going to be a game that we could be in a position that we're going to the playoffs and we win that game. And everyone knows going to Northern Iowa does not suit well for the Penguins. So unfortunately, I hate that that is our last game of the season, and we're going to see the projections of Youngstown State in the playoffs, And I don't think Northern Iowa is going to be good this year. I think they're going to be a 3-4 win game, but that means nothing when they host us at the Unidome. I just hope they don't play spoiler to us with us looking ahead to hosting a round one playoff game. That could be the biggest game on the schedule for me that keeps us from hitting the postseason. So I'm with you, and I thing that sticks out to me on the schedule, to Dan's point, we have that bye week before the Jackrabbits come to us, and we're at home. So that's huge in our favor as far as a in our favor for the schedule at large, I guess. But y'all guys ready to move into September?
Let's do it.
All right, as we did last year, we're just going to break this thing down month to month so we don't overwhelm everyone. Non-conference in September is Mercyhurst on a Thursday, 6 p.m. Then we host Robert Morris. Then we're at Michigan State. And then, as we talked about, we are at Townsend out of conference. We're going to kind of break down, remember, it's July. We're going to break down what games we think we can and should win and just the month. What is the biggest game of the month and what do you see in that month and why, Curdy?
Yeah, I think ultimately we finished this month 3-1. Mercyhurst just joined the FCS recently. I think that's a great start for us. Got a lot of tape, a lot of development from week 1 to week 2. Robert Morris is a little bit scary because of the Duquesne haunting from last season, as well as Coach Rothenbuehler is the OC over there. So if he's calling the plays for them, he is going to remain aggressive, right? He's going to be aggressive. He's going to try to get us. He knows how Doug is going to plan for us. He's over there, right? Troy is at Robert Morris. You guys are looking at me like, yeah. So,
yeah, he is. I know him as Troy. Morris, I didn't know how to say his name.
Sometimes. I mean, he's going to play ultra aggressive, which sometimes he was with us, sometimes he wasn't. He's going to have nothing to lose. Michigan State, Big Ten school, and then we talked about Towson. I think Towson, and this is probably hopeful, Kurt, we have a lead late. We score a touchdown to seal it late. We win something like 31-21. So I think we start off the year with a bang. I think we're 3-1.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Kurt there. I'm kind of, the Robert Morris game jumps out to me because it's kind of like that another local type, I think Kurt or someone pointed out earlier, Robert Morris, there's always those Pittsburgh guys and maybe some Youngstown guys. So that one kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't know. It kind of makes me nervous a little bit maybe, or just kind of like that's a game that I hope our guys are circling, but I like a 3-1 start. And I'll probably say this a lot through the year. I think we have a quarterback back, I mean, we have a quarterback that played well as the year went on. I think, everyone's expecting big things from Bo. So, we're not coming into this year like, man, who's the quarterback going to be, right? So we got a guy. I mean, we have one of our hosts on this show knows what it feels like to come back year 2 after playing a lot of football, right? Kurt, you probably felt a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'm sure Bo has some of that comfort. And so, yeah, I like the 3-1 start. I do. But Robert Morris is probably one that just for some reason kind of jumps out at me a little bit for the month of September.
I love that we have another quality caliber FCS non-conference opponent in this first half of the season schedule. I do think that it is a new road trip that we're not familiar with. Just going to Kurt's point about, early season out of conference games, we haven't been successful. And just typically how we've generally played on the road is not our best football. So, conservatively, I think coming out of this stretch at 2-2, our season's not over. But I think 2-2 is very likely in this first 4-game set.
Yeah, no doubt. And glad you kind of brought that to light, Kurt. Yeah, Coach Troy is the offensive coordinator, Robert Morris, and y'all are right. It's going to be a scary game. He knows Brungar's tendencies. He's, I'm sure, going to be telling their defensive coordinator where to blitz from, where to do, how to cover. He knows where his weaknesses are. Definitely a scary game. That's going to be closer than we want it to be, probably because of Coach Troy, but we should be okay. Townsend, Kyle, you hit it on the head, man. We go 2-2 coming out September. I think it's going to be a lot of trouble. We got to have that Townsend game. I think we beat Mercy Kurz, Robert Morris, obviously Michigan State. I hope no injuries happen there. That's an L. But Townsend, we're going to win that game. I think that is where Coach Phillips takes the turn, or that he moves the program to the next step, breaking that curse or that stat that Kurt gave us that we haven't been able to win on the road in September. So give me the W there. 3-1 coming out of that month. Going into October, we have a bye week, and then we have conference play. Conference play includes South Dakota State, 6 p.m. in the Ice Castle. Then we are at North Dakota, 4 p.m. Then we are at Illinois State. And then we come back to the Ice Castle against Murray State. Thoughts? What do you think, Curdy?
Yeah, another great stretch right here. I think that North Dakota is going to have a little bit of a letdown, a drop-off. We saw them live last year when we were watching that game, and they just didn't seem like they were as good as their record was. So I think that comes back to bite them this season. I think they kind of come back down to earth a little bit. I think last year was a special season for them. South Dakota State, I have us losing a closer one than a few years ago when the Jackrabbits came and they kind of blew us out after that big pass interference call. You guys remember that one, right? Bryce scored a touchdown and the game completely flipped the script. So we'll lose a tight one, Jackrabbits. I think we handle North Dakota very easily. Illinois State was picked, I think, to finish right ahead of us in the standings, but I think that they have a slightly harder schedule. So I think we lose to them, but ultimately we end up one game ahead of them at the end of the year. But I think we lose to them because that's a tough trip. And I know that their crowd, we're kind of neck and neck with Illinois State. And I think that their crowd kind of gears up whenever we go down there, and then we'll beat Murray State. So I think October is a split for us. I think we're 2-2, which ultimately in my schedule would put us at 5-3.
Yeah, I think Kyle alerted to is, kind of his game of the year. And I thought about this Illinois State game a lot, and you guys all brought up good points. We've been there. It's a tough trip. It's a tough place to play. They're probably have always had a tremendous amount of talent. The coach has been there a long time. That's a tough game. That's the game in October that, is my next lookout game, so to speak, if that's best way to put it. And I think, again, I'll be looking, we know what we're going to get out of the Dakotas for the most part. I'm trying to see, where we measure up with like an Illinois State. I felt like they've always, you guys remember, we'd play Illinois State and they'd come out and they'd look big. They'd look physical. They had fast guys. They might have a transfer too that left the Big Ten school and went there. So that game kind of jumps out to me. I like, Kurt, you brought up about North Dakota. They kind of didn't look, out of the Dakota schools, with all due respect, looked like the other ones, if I'm making sense with that comment. So, yeah. And I mean, again, South Dakota State, we've got to close a gap there with some of those Dakota schools. So I'm looking at that one. But Illinois State is really in the month of October. That could be as much of a season swing game as Towson could be. I mean, if we go and beat Towson on the road and we're 3-1 into some of your guys' points, the chance to try and get 3 more wins in October. We can't get 1 win, right? So that Illinois State trip, another road game, as Kyle likes to point out, sometimes we have been traveling well, but I probably shouldn't say, I guess I should be respectful too, back to, I think we have a transfer quarterback in, right? I read Devin Sherwood. He's a good player from Fitch. So we have 2 quarterbacks, local guys. So I think they're going to compete. So that's a good thing to have. So, but, obviously Bo's probably going in there with a little bit of an advantage ahead of time. But I don't want any of the Fitch, Mossman, any of them Fitch guys hitting us up here thinking I'm trying to give anybody, crown a quarterback before. What the hell do I know anyway? So, but yeah, that's my view in October. Illinois State's the one that jumps out at me big time game.
Well, before we go to Kyle, I know you're standing and dancing. You need to go to the bathroom. Are you good, man?
No, I got my standing desk now, so I don't get sleepy.
Nice.
So,
Coach Sims don't want you sleeping, so you got to stand up.
Yeah.
Stand up,
Yeah.
Eat ribs, huh?
So, the big thing for me in terms of not even just looking at the schedule is we always talk about hitting a mark, and we try to say, let's try and hit that Dakota standard. How do we get on their level? Right now, we can't worry about that level. We have to worry about what's in front of us in terms of our team. We have to get better from last season. So just South Dakota State, I just have it as an L. It's just a team that we historically haven't had much success against. And it seemed like they're just they got things figured out, and they're just reloading, and they're building on their success like North Dakota State. So we'll save that for the next segment. But I do have this team winning back-to-back games on the road at North Dakota and Illinois State, which is huge because I really do feel like one of the biggest factors that this team has to get over in terms of hurdles is their road trips. And I have no idea why. It just is what it is. So I do have them. I do have confidence in them winning back-to-back games on the road against North Dakota and Illinois State. And then obviously coming home and welcoming Murray State to the Ice Castle. So that's plain and simple. I have us at 5-3 as well. Like Kurt, I just have us getting there a different way.
That's fair. And I'm going to tell you straight up, you're going to be the only one having us win at Illinois State because I don't think that's happening.
Why do you not think it's happening? Hold on a second. Why do you not think it's happening when we went and lost a 1-score game there last year? They're picked 4th. We're picked 5th. This team is historically pretty identical in terms of players that they get to YSU, fan support that they get from YSU. Shit, they even had a national championship appearance, same as YSU. So why are you so against YSU going on the road and winning at Illinois State?
Because we don't do well on the road. I have us beating South Dakota State at home, though. I think we're going to win this game, especially if we come off Townsend and have some sort of confidence. The Jackrabbits have a new coach. Their quarterback transferred to Iowa. I think he's starting for the Hawkeyes. Yeah, they usually do reload, but I'm very interested to see, as Dan alluded to, with the transfer, the NIL, is that reload slowing down? I think the Jackrabbits, they have one of their own per se as head coach, but he didn't promote within. So he hadn't been around the program as they've had their, when I say recent success, I mean winning national championship success. He wasn't there. I think they're dropping off a little bit. I think we're on the rise at home. I'm giving us the W of the Jackrabbits. North Dakota is going to have a hard fall off, as I alluded to earlier. We should go up there and kick some butt. Illinois State, huge game. I mean, if we win that game, fantastic. I just don't think we travel very well on the road and win. Especially, I still have nightmares on when we went out to Illinois State and lost with 8 seconds left. So I have an L on the Illinois State. Murray State, I'm scared. We always overlook the game. We always talk about how they stink, yet for some reason they always hold on to about the fourth quarter. That's a game I have us winning, but unfortunately, I think it'll be another snoozer. So biggest game, South Dakota State coming to us. Great opportunity to bring the program to the next level, beating the Jackrabbits. I have a 6-2 coming out. I have really high hopes for us coming out of the month of October going into November. You guys ready for November?
No, your logic is so flawed that you have us at 6-2 and you give us no chance at Illinois State. I'm just going to say it for our fans. Your logic is flawed. Now we can move on to November.
Dude, I love this early preseason version of the sledgehammer. This is what I miss.
I'm not saying we don't have a chance, but I am just pointing out that you're the only one of the four that picked the Illinois State win.
But then the fact that you say, the fact that you just go say so confidently, we're going to beat the Jackrabbits, and that's your win. That's how you get us to 6-2 is the Jackrabbits and not Illinois State.
Yes, at home. I think we play a little better at home than
I don't care where the Jackrabbits play. I'm giving them the edge everywhere they play.
I don't think
except the Fargo Dome.
To be fair, all of us can agree on the fact that every week we look at the Missouri Valley Football Conference and there's like one win that's like, wow, that just happened. Yeah. Every week something happens. Like Indiana State knocks off North Dakota State when we were playing. It was like a 16-13 ball game. They went into Fargo and won, and we were like, wait, seriously? The team that just beat our ass 47-9 just lost to Indiana? Like every week something happens. I don't understand when it happens. But Sal picked that it would happen.
Well, South Dakota State's warming up with Mercyhurst.
You're logical about it. I'm just saying there is some thought behind once a week. It seems like somebody does something to either.
Well, that's why they call predictions.
Or they suck that week.
Whatever. That's why predictions don't mean a dang thing. I mean, what the hell do
wrong.
We know about? You know what I mean? That what are we even predicting shit for? Let's just but whatever.
Sure, you need
before any of the teams have even played.
Thank you.
You need to go watch the Little Giants again. It's been a while. You just need one time.
One time, Torian.
All right, let's go to November. Let's go to November. I hope I have all losses to calm Searle down here. What do you got?
Hey, so a lot of us had 5 wins heading into November. Some of us had 6. I don't know how they got to 6, but whatever. It's another kind.
Smoking crack.
Great spot in November. Even if you just throw away the North Dakota State game, which I'd love to play North Dakota State. I hope we win. Knock it off as an L if you want to. But we come home with 2 very, Southern Illinois and Indiana State are both those games that we kind of overlook every time we give this schedule prediction. So it's those teams that we say, we should beat them, but we can't overlook them. I'm glad that we have both of those at home coming off of the Bison. So if we have 5 wins or 6 wins, now we're talking about getting 6, 7, and then we go into UNI, who we're hoping is down this year, to seal our fate, right? So it's going to probably come down to that last game of, do we have 7 wins and we're sitting in there Sunday hoping that we're getting in, or do we go to UNI, beat their ass, and we're in, right? That's kind of the mentality I want going into that last one. So I think we lose to North Dakota State, and I think we actually win out, giving us that 8th win right on the bubble, and we're in. If we finish with 7, I think we finish 5th in the conference, and I think we're out. So 8 wins is what I think we need.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really gone game by game, my wins and losses. You guys know how I feel about predictions. Sal's going to send a text in the chat and say that I did my usual and I, whatever. But I don't know enough to know about predictions, but I like 8 wins. I think Northern Iowa. Who picked that game earlier? Was it you, Sal, or who picked Northern Iowa? Was like Sal was you, right? And and Kurt brought it up, and Kyle knows. We all know everything about the Unidome. That's the game of, like last year, I thought it was going to be the game that would get us into the playoffs. It was a game that kind of turned the tide of finished the year the right way. Bo Brungard looked played incredible, won the game for us, the whole 9 yards. We finally got Coach Farley on his way out and all that stuff. But that one jumps out to me, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But take a step back for a second. Another new head coach. So how many new head coaches in the conference this year? I know we got obviously a new one at South Dakota State, new one at North Dakota, new one at Murray State, new one at Northern Iowa. Am I missing anyone?
I was going to say it's all the Dakotas minus North Dakota State as a year 2 coach.
Well, yeah. Well, Northern Iowa, new coach. I'm talking just first year new guys. Yeah. And we all know, I mean, we've seen it here at YSU, a new coach, new program. I mean, that first year, all of a sudden you're the guy. It's tough. It can be tough, And so, I'm hoping, and also we just talked about, as I asked Ron Stroller, we just said that South Dakota State's quarterback transferred out to Iowa. When's the last time a Dakota quarterback left? So maybe it's finally hitting these Dakota schools. I mean, Carson Wentz and all those guys were never going to leave a Dakota school, and we wouldn't have thought this guy was going to leave. So, that's a good thing for us because it brings some parity to the league. I think that, and it may be a bad way. I hate this transfer and all this stuff, but it brings some parity in the fact that not just YSU's getting plucked by Michigan or Duke or whoever it might be that was taking some of our guys. So, but I'll really be interested to see, we heard a lot of rumors about Northern Iowa and how they weren't real happy with Farley for years, right? Didn't we hear that? We heard it from, he wasn't well liked. Well, now they got rid of him and new coach. Same thing at Murray State. That head coach there, Dean Hood, was doing a good job, had a good resume. I'm not sure what they got rid of him for. I mean, it wasn't like he was there for 10 years, but or 15 years or 5 years, or whatever it might be. But so, again, long story short, Northern Iowa, as Kurt mentioned, I hope we go out there, plant a flag at the Uni Dome and get ourselves in the playoffs. So
I want Sal's predictions before I go. I want him to tell me. I want Sal to tell me that the dynasty of North Dakota State is over and we're going to go win at the Fargo Dome, but we can't go win in normal Illinois. So
Can we go pay-per-view right now? Can we pause and go pay-per-view? Sal, can you figure that out? Pause. I want to go pay-per-view with the Sledge.
So,
right now,
I got only if Mesmer could be my tag team. Anyway,
I'll go, Sal. North Dakota State. No, I'll go because you're just going to make a fool of yourself after me. Fargo Dome, tough place to play. North Dakota State. I don't care what the transfer portal says is coming in or going out for North Dakota State. They've won 10 out of the last 14 national championships, and that is probably something that will never be seen again in any stretch of sports ever. It's something that's just really insane, and we've joked about them going to the Mountain West, and they'll probably be pretty successful there if they do. I have that as a loss for multiple reasons. It's on the road. It's North Dakota State. But I do have us finishing the season 3 wins. And like Kurt said, it gets us to that eight win mark to finish at 8-4. The one thing that, the way that I broke this schedule down and is that we're not stringing losses together. I know Kurt and I think it was our junior year, we lost 4 games straight and then we won 4 games straight. But because we lost 4 straight, that was the playoffs determination. The playoff committee's determination to keep us out that year was because we strung 4 losses together, and they said we just can't have that in a playoff team, or so they say. So that's a good thing for our schedule, finishing 8-4 with the only 2 back-to-back losses I have on paper is Towson, bye week, and South Dakota State.
Yeah, and no question, 8-4. We're in. You got to be in at 8-4 in this conference. That's for sure, especially with a lot of the FCS powers leaving to the FBS. There's not a lot left that would keep us out. Kyle, on to North Dakota State. Matt Inns, who I believe is the new head coach at Fresno State. I don't know why. I remember he left for USC. I think he was really killing the dynasty. Now they got their new coach, Tim, who came from the Craig Bulls regime. He was down there in Wyoming with the whole Josh Allen. Craig Bulls leaves Wyoming. He goes back to North Dakota State. He builds them back to really what they were. He picked up the crumbling pieces from 22-23 season, and he molded it in 24. I think North Dakota State's on a different planet. I don't care if we were playing them in what's the name of the Watt Center. It doesn't matter where we play them. They are on a different level. I think that's going to be an ugly game. We're going to lose big to them. The only person stopping North Dakota State from running all the way to the national championship is themselves. They're really good. They're really good. Southern Illinois, that's going to be a win at home. Indiana State, win at home. And the really big thing about the Unidome, I talk about being a big game. I think we're going to lose that game. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a look ahead to the playoffs. That going back as he keeps going back to that Jackrabbit game. If we win that Jackrabbit game, we're thinking playoffs. We're in the projections, and we're going to potentially lay an egg out there in the Unidome as we always do. Pending we do lose to the Jackrabbits, then that is a must-win game to propel us in the playoffs, as you guys also projected. But if we do beat the Jackrabbits, I think that's a loss. So I have us going 2-2 in the playoffs. That gives us basically a loss on the road for every conference game except North Dakota is where my logic's at, by the way, Kyle, because we do not play well on the road, especially in conference. So I have us 8-4 overall as well. I have us in the playoffs. I have us hosting a game versus a team from a lower conference that's only in by automatic qualification, getting by that. Round 2, that's where Coach Phillips had us 2 years ago. Can he jump and bring us to the next level and get beyond that second level, which would require winning on the road in the postseason? Very tough to do, but we'll see. Any comments or questions that we left out on the schedule? As y'all said, it's July, but any thoughts?
Is North Dakota State's quarterback is gone, right? Did he get drafted?
I don't.
North Dakota State's quarterback was a senior, right?
I think he signed an undrafted free agent somewhere. I think he's in a mini camp right now.
Okay, so the Bison are going to have a new.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah,
I don't think he was super tall, super strong arm, but he's a good athlete, good player.
Yeah, he'll kind of be like, well, heck, the Easton Stick is still in the NFL, right? Or maybe he finally retired. He was a backup in San Diego or Los Angeles. I'm sorry, for a long time.
He was a backup. Wentz was a backup as much as last year behind Mahomes. Cam Miller just signed with the Raiders.
So, I mean, I just wonder, and they do reload. I mean, Kyle nailed it. The Dakota schools, we've all said it. I mean, it's no damn secret. They've been the standard in the conference for, I mean, just North Dakota State. I kind of forgot that they won 10 freaking national championships. It is incredible. But they both have new quarterbacks. So I'm not trying to get off topic, but just a quick recap. We have a quarterback back. I mean, obviously I think we're going to be a playoff team. And if we go 8-4, which I think we will, we're obviously going to host a game or maybe get a bye. Can we get a bye at 8-4?
Probably depends.
I mean, 9-3 with South Dakota, and they were like a number 3 team just by winning one more extra game on what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if we're 8-4 and we have a loss at Michigan State, a Big 10 school or Big 20, whatever the conference is now, that I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. If we get in it, we finish 8-4, we're in the playoffs. We all know that. We host, or maybe we get a bye. So, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we have a guy on the screeners, a Hall of Fame quarterback. How important is it? And this is for all of us to think about this. That the position we're now with who was on he was on the All Missouri Valley team as a, wasn't as a quarterback, but was that all around. But we have a quarterback back who's pretty damn dynamic with the new offensive coordinator.
I will say this. We were all very quick to chalk up Michigan State as a loss. Michigan State was not successful last year. Looking 5-7, something like that. And depending on how they progress, it's like we might be able to catch them trying to rebuild, trying to figure themselves out. I mean, we've had success against FBS schools. Hasn't always translated to wins, but we've had success. And, you know, like we do have our new offensive coordinator, has Big Ten experience. Like, what are we doing? Like we essentially, if South thinks we're good enough to beat South Dakota State, and I think we're good enough to be 8-4, I'm being serious. I think, you know, Michigan State is a game that we're not circling as a, you know, we can get them. But if things fall our way, there are games, like Kurt said, all over the country that you look at and say, wow, what happened here? Like, what happened to this week? So, you know, Michigan State is something to just kind of circle back to and watch early.
Mhm.
And depending on if we play them tight and still lose, that's not necessarily a bad sign because no one expected us to win anyways. But if we play them tight, we come out of there healthy, and we play aggressive, we could very well be set up to beat a South Dakota State or Towson and come out of, you know, August and September 4-0 or 3-1, you know. So it's just something to kind of chew on there.
Yeah, and the more I look at schedules, this schedule compared to last year's schedule, and we go back and think of last year, I know I do this personally, 4 wins is not acceptable, right? 4 wins is just not acceptable for us with the budget, with the recruiting, with the facilities that we have. There's no reason we have 4 wins. That Duquesne was an outlier. That almost never happens to us. Give us that win. That's 5 wins. You go back and look, we lost to Missouri State by a score. We lost to South Dakota by 10 points. We lost to North Dakota in overtime. Or no, we beat North Dakota in overtime. We lost to Illinois State by a score. We lost to Southern Hill by 4 points. You're only a couple games from last year's 4-win team, a couple plays here and there where you're at 8 wins. So when we're picked as 5th, you think, hey, we got a favorable schedule this year because we don't see a playoff team in South Dakota. If the ball swings 1 or 2 ways our game and we handle our business like we should have last year and we didn't, maybe we end up with 9 or 10 wins. I don't know if we snip off one of those Dakota schools, but I like our schedule because I think it allows us to handle our business, but also pluck 1 or 2 more games somewhere.
Yeah, and that's going to come down to just growing as a team, and like we've talked about, Bo being more comfortable behind center, and you know, the longer you're back there, the more experience you have, the less stressful situations are on the field, and those plays tend to go your way when you're focused and you've been in that situation once or twice before.
Yeah, and I'm going to chime in with Searle, and then Sal, I know you were saying something. The thing I thought about when you were talking about Bo, and now you get into the playoffs, and there are these teams that we play that haven't seen Bo's speed before. Now you kind of want to roll the dice. If I'm a gambler and I'm saying I'm going to roll with the best player in this FCS playoff game, we have that best player. And not to mention, Bo was there for the ride behind Mitch Davison, and he saw everything that happened. So don't tell me Bo's not experienced in the playoffs. He's been there.
Yeah, no doubt. Going back a couple of things you guys said, Kyle, I'm with you on Michigan State. I don't think we'll win, but it'll be definitely closer and a fun, entertaining 2 or 3 quarters. Where we got them last year, yes, I think we not with last year's team. This year's YSU team would have beat last year's Michigan State team because you remember the year before, Mel Tucker was a head coach dealing with that situation. I don't want to put a name or a tag on it for reasons. Yeah. So Jonathan Smith comes over from Oregon State, who took over a terrible situation, but he's a really good coach. And I'm saying that because when he was at Oregon State with DJ Uiagalelei with his quarterback, and he won with that guy who, if anyone knows anything from college football last year, DJU stinks. So if he was able to win with DJU at Oregon State, he's going to have those boys ready to go at Michigan State. Not sure if he's got we're competing for the Big Ten ready to go just yet, but they'll be better than last year for sure. And then one more point on Dan's comment when he mentioned these first-year head coaches. I think that's huge, a huge disadvantage. If you have a first-year head coach, you probably had an exit on the transfer portal as people followed their. I mean, it's usually a clean out of assistants, right? So they transfer with their coordinator, their head coach, or elsewhere. I think you're at a huge disadvantage. You're definitely taking a step back. And one thing we take for granted, really, is I think Coach Phillips has had opportunities, and Ron Stroll has been able to keep him, and he's really building something special, especially with that number 4 recruiting class in the FCS. By the way, that recruiting class, I think it finished like 131 overall in the country. And side note, there's 135 FBS schools, so that means he recruited better than FBS schools. Is nuts. I think it's a huge advantage for us.
Yeah, I mean, guys, we all know we've seen it everywhere. I mean, new head coaches, there's a learning curve there, and in this conference, I mean, you could have been on the staff or not, or there's usually a reason for a coaching change, or the head guy left. But I go back to, we've talked about some quarterbacks on the show, South Dakota State's, North Dakota State's. Neither of those guys were necessarily drop back Peyton Manning type guys, right? They were, the North Dakota State guy, who was incredible, was a lot like the number 12 we got. He ran, was tough, made plays, and did those kind of things. We have a new offensive coordinator. I don't get into, is this coordinator better than that one? All that. It's maybe this guy's the right fit for Bo. Coach Troy's a good coach. He's coached a long time. I focus more on, you could be the greatest coach with X's and O's, but if you don't have the right guy, as we all know, you're not going to. But Bo brings back experience. If Bo ends up being the guy, which I think if we were playing this Saturday, he would probably be the starting quarterback. And he can do a lot of things. And we're going to find out. We'll see, what was his progression, throwing the ball and recognizing things. Kurt, you can speak to that. And Coach Phillips, I think, Sal, you just brought up a good point. He's been here. He knows, he grew up in this program as a young coach, and the connections with the guys he has. This could just be finally things coming together in time, recruiting, all those things. I think we could be in store for some really cool stuff this year. I hope so, but we all know if you don't got a guy under center, I don't care what league it is, I don't care what level it is, if you don't got a guy under center that can make things happen, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about 8-4, which could be 9-3, 10, and who the hell knows. But I like the fact that we have a quarterback back who can do a lot of things, and we're fixing to find out. So,
couple things to look forward to. Again, camp starts this Monday, July 28th, and then from there in 30 days, August 28th, a Thursday, 6 p.m. Is Mercyhurst. And as always, I think Indiana State is the other team that opens up on a Thursday. Feel like always, very happy Strollo does that. It's a no-brainer to start on Thursdays. Very glad he takes advantage of that. Start camp early, and then obviously after that first week, you have some time to rest as a long weekend. A couple things I just want to go over for the listeners. In a couple weeks, we will be breaking down this conference. We're going to be looking at who has the easiest schedule, who has the hardest schedule. Where do we think we fit as far as the Missouri Valley Football Conference, both going in, and how is the Missouri Valley Football Conference projected to rank going out based on their strength of schedule this season. But first, before we do that, Kurt, Kyle, YouTube Live, Instagram, any comments or questions from those?
Nothing on YouTube. Just Rich has us going 9-3. So,
yeah, YouTube. Just I posted a couple days ago the standings, the preseason standings. Most people felt like 5th was fair. Some people thought we could jump as high as 3. But after a 4-8 season, it felt like we needed to prove ourselves. So 5th, to me, in my opinion, feels like our floor this year, which is kind of encouraging. I don't think we're going to finish any less than 5th.
What's the floor? 5th in the conference?
I think it's a massive disappointment if we finish any lower than fifth. That fifth feels like our floor. Last year, our floor felt a little bit lower. We could finish anywhere from sixth, seventh, or eighth. This year, it's a massive disappointment if we're anything lower than fifth. So I'm more encouraged about this season and this roster.
Massive disappointment, yes, but if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to say this. The floor would be 6-6 because I could easily see losses at Michigan State, Townsend, South Dakota State, Illinois State, North Dakota State, and Northern Illinois. I think I just named all the road games.
Yeah, and that could be fifth in the conference because our conference is very top heavy. You could basically divvy 3 playoff teams right now, and then it seems to be like we are with Illinois State, maybe Southern Illinois with us. And then, we can kind of pick the bottom 3 or 4 teams. So 6 and 6.
You're right. I just picked 2 out of conference losses. So that'd be 4 losses in conference.
The best thing about this sport is that it's full of competitors on the roster and you got to go play the game. So it doesn't matter. Like Coach Kopp's point is predictions don't mean anything. You got to play the game, but
In last year's, we had the Vandy tracker. This year, we're going to have the Missouri State tracker.
Yes.
So we're going to be following Missouri State and their CUSA run. Okay. Anything else before we lock it up?
Oh, we got to give a shout out real quick to the Godfather. The last time he was on the show, he was doing all this. Now he's the lieutenant governor of Ohio. Sal, come on, man! You're down there in Florida. You don't know that the Godfather is now the lieutenant governor. So we just wanted to clue you in. You're down there in that warm weather. I don't know if you knew that.
But the question is he running for governor and is he running as an independent? Because we don't talk politics, but I will say
talking politics right now.
I don't think he would win the Republican primary. But if he ran as an independent, he would become the governor of Ohio.
Oh boy! All right, like we said, we don't talk politics, and we don't go against the Godfather on the show. I won't tell him you said that. So, next topic. We need Jerry O in the kitchen ASAP. So,
okay, y'all good to lock it up?
Lock it up, dude.
All right, guys. You have been watching Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, Youngstown Penguin Podcast, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, Kurt Monter, Zach. Get any questions, comments you may have, and please follow it as that will announce when our next show is, so you could get on YouTube Live and follow us and ask any question live and join us in the chat there. But as always, I'm Sal Guerrero. That's Dan Cup. That's Kyle Sir. That's Kurt Hassan. Go Penguins.
Go Penguins.